Exodus chapter 24, verse 12. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments I have written for their instruction." Chapter 24 again, verses 15 to 18. When Moses went up on the mountain, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai. For 6 days the cloud covered the mountain, and on the 7th day the Lord called to Moses from within the cloud. To the Israelites, the glory of the Lord looked like a consuming fire on top of the mountain. And then Moses entered the cloud as he went up on the mountain, and he stayed up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And finally, Exodus chapter 31, verse 18. When the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant law, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God.
Hello to you all. It's December the 11th today, and big thanks to Troy for reading the scripture for us from Exodus. And today our story from our book Tracing Glory is called The Glory of the Law. God used Moses to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, across the Red Sea and into the wilderness. God had set his people free so that they could have a relationship with him. He was planning to live with them and lead them to the land he had promised to give their father Abraham. God was going to bless the Israelites so that they could show his glory to all the people on the earth. But for sinful people to live with a holy God, there had to be rules. Because God had set them free, the Israelites needed to know what God was like and how he expected them to live in relationship with him. God called Moses to meet him at the top of a mountain called Sinai. God's awesome glory was displayed at Mount Sinai. The people at the base of the mountain saw thunder and lightning, fire and smoke. This reminded them that God is powerful and perfect. He cannot live where sin lives. His people must be holy like he is holy. Moses met God at the top of the mountain. God gave him the 10 commandments and the law, written on tablets of stone with his own finger. The law was God's rules to show the people God's perfect character. It reminded the people that they didn't have to work to earn God's love. He already loved them. Because God had loved them first and set them free, the law told the people to love God and worship him only. It told them to love other people in the same way that they loved themselves. God promised to live with his people and bless them if they obeyed his law, and the people eagerly promised to obey. Sadly, though, God's people did not keep their promise. Before Moses even came down from Mount Sinai, they had disobeyed God by creating a golden calf to worship instead of God. You see, the law showed people how they were supposed to live, but it didn't have the power to help them obey it. God's people needed more than the law. They needed a rescuer to keep the law perfectly in their place and give them the power they needed to obey. So God gave his people the law written on tablets of stone. The law showed them how sinners are to live in relationship with the holy God. And because of their sinful hearts, God's people could not keep his law. It showed them that their need for a rescuer. Do you know who that rescuer is? Jesus. He is the rescuer. And he, Jesus Christ, kept God's law perfectly in place of God's people. So, some questions to think about. After God set his people free, he gave them rules to show them how to live with him and with others. What were these rules called? And why, do you think, are these rules good? Do you sometimes find it hard to obey rules? And I wonder why. I think sometimes, I don't know about you, but I think sometimes that when there are rules, we feel like squashed in, and you think, oh, I don't want to keep those rules, I want to break the rules because I want to think for myself. But sometimes rules are very, very important, and they're important because they protect us and they protect other people. Can you imagine what the world would be like if there were no rules? Everybody did what they wanted to do. Some people would find that good, and some people would find it very, very harmful. And so these rules that God gave to his people weren't because God wanted to spoil their fun, but they were those rules were to protect his people from themselves, mostly because they made bad decisions, like we all do. And God kept his promises, isn't he? He says in the Bible and in this book that we've been reading that God keeps his promises. And God's promise was to bring all those people, his people, back to him in a relationship with him. And he used the rules to help them to do that. But we know that what we've just read is that those rules are good because God made them. But it's very hard to keep rules without someone helping you to do that. And we've read, haven't we, that people need a rescuer. We need a rescuer. We need someone to help us keep those rules. And that rescuer is Jesus. And this is why we celebrate Christmas, is because Jesus is our rescuer. So thank you for joining me today on this Saturday evening. I'll be back tomorrow to tell you the next story. And if you live in Sandfields, we have church tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You'd be very welcome to come. But other than that, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon sometime. See you then. Bye bye.